Time for some more cooking with Surge. Today we'll be doing carbonated Surge ice cream. I'll be taking 4 egg yolks, putting them in one bowl, separating them from the egg whites in another bowl. Now I'll be adding to the egg yellows what should be 2/3 cup of sugar according to the original recipe, but instead it's going to be 2/3 cup of Surge. Now I was slightly off with the amount of Surge concentrate that I had made, so I added a tablespoon of sugar to bring it up to the 2/3 cup mark, but this is old Surge concentrate other than that. As expected, the sugar didn't dissolve very well in it. So let's just get this into the egg yellows after we kind of bring everything back into suspension. Nice green eggs. And then just whisk this up. And then we'll be heating 1½ cups of milk to a simmer. Always make sure you're using organic ingredients if you can when you're cooking with Surge. Strictly for the purpose that it's so artificial that you don't want to overwhelm the artificialness of it. So we'll just bring this to a simmer real quick. So this is the part most likely to screw up out of all this. I've got my milk at a simmer, and I'm going to temper these egg yolks, and then I'm going to actually try to make this set up right without scrambling my eggs. I have a hard time doing this normally when I make ice cream, let alone when I've got whatever funky stuff is in here, all these acids and stuff. So who knows, this might stop the curdling, it could accelerate the curdling. It might have no impact on the curdling. So let's give this a try. I'm going to take just a spoon here and get a little bit of my heated liquid. And start stirring like crazy. And then I'm going to take this heavily stirred mixture and I'm going to put this into the pan that's still hot with its own dose of heavy stirring. I don't see any chunks in my bowl. That's a good sign. I'll move it back over to the heat. Put medium heat on it, and we'll see how this turns out. Now, per the directions I'm following, I need to heat this to about 170, at which time it should start to thicken up. So I've got a thermal probe in here, and I'm actually just monitoring it as I go. I should probably turn this down a little bit. You know, this is the tricky part. You curdle this and it's all kind of wrecked. So I'll come back to it if things turn out okay. So it definitely thickened up, but didn't thicken up a lot. The instruction said it should coat the back of a spoon, maybe just barely. I took it up to 177. I figure with all that surge, there's a lot more liquid in this than normally. Usually that entire amount's in sugar. So, you know, I don't want to overcook it, and I may have already done that. It still looks entirely fluid, but I'm just going to set up a strainer, and I'm going to strain this into a bowl now. So I'll turn off the heat, grab a nice fine strainer, and then get to it, right? So it looks like I might have got a little bit of curdling. It's hard to tell, but all in all, not too bad. Then I need to add 1.5 cups of heavy cream to this, so let's get that in there. Just chuck that in and cool everything down, right? Get that stirred in. And that is the base of my ice cream. Faint green color. A little disappointing. Anyway, in order to make dry ice cream, carbonated ice cream, I need to go break up some dry ice. So let's go do that next. I'm going to stick this in the refrigerator and start cooling it down in the meantime. So here's the block of dry ice. I bought a 2-pound block. Pretty sizable, probably a lot more than I really need. You know, I got it from a butcher shop, which is kind of funny because they put it in the butcher's paper and everything. So I'm just going to wrap it in newspapers, kind of the way it is. Just beat it with a hammer and see what happens. So basically I just kept it wrapped in the newspaper and smacked it with this hammer, and it absolutely pulverized it. Now I've got a nice powder to add. You know, you want to add it as a powder, something fine. If you add it as big chunks, they're going to end up staying in there, and then you're going to have to wait a while for them to evaporate out. Otherwise, you're going to get a mouthful of dry ice, which is dangerous. So take care if you try to replicate this. There are some other dry ice recipes on YouTube. I wasn't really trying to mimic any of those. I just followed a usual ice cream recipe, and I'm just adding dry ice to see how it turns out. But that would be good advice anyway. So let's get this chucked in here with stirring until we get something resembling ice cream. If we do. I can feel some little pieces of dry ice actually kind of banging against the spoon. So definitely got some of these larger chunks in there. Nothing huge. The bigger chunks that you see in here have they're all smaller chunks that have kind of aggregated together. But you know, I'm gonna have to be careful of that when I actually do eat this. I'll probably give it, you know, 5 minutes to kind of air out and hopefully get rid of anything like that. So it doesn't really feel like it's thickening up yet, but we're starting to get to the end of that first edition of dry ice. Boy, this doesn't seem like it's going to take anywhere near the 2 pounds that I bought. Let's move out of the way, get some more light on this, right? Got some bubbles kind of staying at the surface. It's definitely a little thicker. We're just going to dig right into it again. There we go. So it just kind of started setting up all of a sudden. There's definitely an upper layer on it now. It's kind of blorping out some carbon dioxide. You know, I have to wonder how this compares to liquid nitrogen ice cream. You know, the principle is similar, although, you know, being a solid, you're not going to get the same kind of heat transfer out of it. But, you know, you're trying to cool the ice cream with something rapidly. Well, meanwhile, using something that's going to be creating gas, which is going to act kind of to leaven it and keep it light. So there was a crust that just formed on top when I added the dry ice that time, so it's getting there. Definitely getting close. The volume has increased tremendously. It's been, maybe 9.5 minutes since I started this. Looks like I'm almost ready to overflow. It's taken maybe a quarter of the dry ice, so less than a half a pound, because definitely some evaporated from that 2 pounds I originally bought. I'm just kind of waiting for it to simmer down a little bit because the volume was so high. I felt some bits on the bottom where it's starting to harden. Kind of making sure everything's chopped up so I don't have any bastions of dry ice hanging out. Pan has a nice layer of frost on it now. So at this point, we're 20 minutes into this, and I'm about out of camera time. So I have added the remainder of the dry ice, which there wasn't much of it left. And I'm just going to work this in here. And then I am going to put a piece of saran wrap over the top of this. And then I am going to put it in the freezer for about an hour. And what it is what it is at that point. It seemed like it was going pretty well, and if I had the time, I would have continued to kind of babe it along. But I'm not sure, you know, if I would have been able to record all that. It's actually looking pretty spot on at the moment. So get everything off the bottom, get it all stirred in, kind of spread it out. Actually, that looks pretty good. carbonated surge ice cream. Let's get it in the freezer. So the ice cream is somewhat set up, but in order to avoid the risk of maybe waking up tomorrow morning and finding a puddle because for some reason the surge prevents it from setting up at all, I'm gonna taste test it now before I go to sleep. Making sure that it's not loaded with dry ice still. Doesn't look to be the case. 27, 26. So it's not shooting down. You know, dry ice is around negative 78 degrees centigrade. So much lower than this, down to 24 Fahrenheit. So it's been in the freezer, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And we can get a scoop out of there. Get that put down. Let's give it a try. And then I'm going to let it sit overnight, see if it sets up some more. But I would have hated to try it tomorrow when it's flat or something like that. Oh wow. That is super tangy from the carbon dioxide. It's kind of like a sherbet. I might have to make this again. Oh wow, that's really cool. It's like you can feel the little pops on your tongue. That's awesome. You know, I might go with the Surge frosting is the video, but it's really just Surge whipped cream. If I had any Surge concentrate, I'd put that over the top too, but I use all of that in this. But it is very good on its own. Oh, spectacular. That's like magical. Focus. Or don't. Good stuff. We'll see how it comes out tomorrow morning. Otherwise, not a disappointment at all. Very good. So the ice cream has sat overnight and it's firmed up. It's honest to goodness ice cream now, and it's lost a little bit of the crazy carbonation that it did have, that over the top kind of magicalness, but it's definitely carbonated still. So I talked to a coworker earlier this week and they said, well, if you make Surge ice cream, you should probably make a Surge float. So I'm going to do that. And you know what? With the frosting that I made, with the whipped cream frosting and the ice cream, I found out that Surge actually pairs pretty well with dairy. So even if you didn't have Surge ice cream, a Surge float would probably be a pretty good thing. So I'm just going to make one real quick. Just a nice Surge float with some Surge. So let's zoom in on that. Fountains of green goodness. Ooh, the ice cream is extra carbonated, isn't it? It's fizzing like crazy now. And there you have it, Surge float. Give it a try. That's good. Hopefully someone else can have this pleasure someday. I'm enjoying it.